Hoisting. Before using a hoist, does the person's care plan say you should use a hoist? Have you been competently trained, and do you feel confident to use the hoist and sling? Is the hoist charged? Is the sling the correct size and type for the person? Do the sling attachments match the hoist spreader bar attachments? Is the sling leg loop configuration in the care plan correct for the person? Does the hoist go up and down? Do the legs open and close? Are the wheels free running? Do you know how to operate the emergency lowering system? Has the hoist been examined in the last 6 months? Check the sticker. Is the sling clean and undamaged? Pull on each loop to check the sling's structural integrity. What is the safe working load, SWL, of the hoist and sling, and does the person's weight exceed the safe working load? Have I told the person what I am about to do, and have I got their consent and cooperation? Does the current condition of the person to be hoisted present any concerns? If hoisting from a bed, to avoid hazardous forward bent postures, is the bed at the correct working height? A very careful individual risk assessment must be conducted when using a toileting sling, and correct sizing is essential. The person being hoisted must have good upper body tone and sitting balance. A toileting sling should never be used for transfers that do not involve toileting. Even when hoists are used, there are still risks to the handler of musculoskeletal disorders due to the combination of forward bent postures and sometimes high physical effort to fit slings, especially when fitting a sling when hoisting from the floor and pushing and pulling mobile hoists when the person has been lifted by the hoist. The person being hoisted is also at risk of injury from falls when the hoist and sling have not been used correctly, and injury or discomfort due to incorrect sling choice and fitting. Concerning sling choice, the style and fabric of the sling will depend on the person's individual risk assessment, and consideration should be given to the amount of support needed, including the legs, the person's sitting balance, trunk, and head control, the position in which the person is comfortable, reclined or sitting, the person's skin condition, the seat or other furniture, equipment that the person is being transferred to, unpredictable movements, restlessness, aggression, spasm or lack of tone, the task to be undertaken, necessity for easy removal of the sling, need for regular laundering or drying out after bathing or pool use, whether the sling is to be left under the person. Photographs showing the configuration of a sling are beneficial in the care plan, particularly for a person with complex handling needs. The Mackworth Essentials 180 mobile hoist has been carefully pushed to the bed, and both of the hoist's brakes have been applied for attaching the sling to the 6-point spreader bar. The head end of the profiling bed has been raised. The hoist's boom has been lowered close to her so that the sling loops reach the spreader bar easily. Here, Gareth and Jason attach the loops that are closest to her shoulders, both selecting the orange loops of the Prism Medical Universal Sling, attaching them to the nearest point to her on the 6-point spreader bar. Next, they attach the middle red loops of the sling to the middle point on the 6-point spreader bar. The standard method to arrange the leg loops is to cross them, which brings the person's legs together when the person is lifted with the hoist. This gives added security, preventing the person from falling forward. Before hoisting, both handlers should check that all the equipment needed for the transfer is ready. For example, is the wheelchair next to the bed? Is the environment as clear as possible? With slings and loops, adjusting shoulder loops will change the basic position and bring the person forward or reclined, which may increase their comfort and will affect the pressure felt on the legs. If the shoulder loops are too short, this may bring the person too upright, with the danger of them falling forward or banging their head on the spreader bar. Adjustment of the leg loops may also be necessary to achieve the desired position. To hoist, the brakes are taken off. Hoist up until the straps are in tension. Both handlers must check that the person looks safe and comfortable. It can be useful for the person to hold on to the spreader bar so that they feel more secure. Be careful not to hoist the person too high. Clearance is all that is needed. Uncrossed leg loops have the advantage of giving more access for personal care. It may be more comfortable for men, but there may be dignity issues for women. There is an increased risk of the person falling through the sling if there is decreased trunk control. The bucket configuration of the universal sling is where each leg loop is passed under both legs, which shortens the leg loops and brings the knees higher and closely together. This may be easier for people with tight adductor thigh muscles, but must be used with care for people with larger or swollen legs, as there is increased pressure from the sling on the outside of the thighs and from the knees being pressed together. Once the person has been hoisted, again only with clearance of the bed, one handler pulls the hoist away from the bed. Mobile hoists should only be used to transport a person over a short distance. Once you have assessed the load and the environment is safe behind you, you should position yourself by facing the mobile hoist with one foot in front of the other. The front foot heel should be level with the rear foot toes. Placing the feet your normal hip width apart. Bending both your knees no more than a semi-squat. Placing your hands safely on the mobile hoist, gripping the handles. Keeping your elbows close to your body. To initiate movement of the load from a standing start, drive your whole body backwards with your leg muscles, mainly the front of thigh muscles. Keeping your elbows in, your spine upright and your head looking forward. Mobile hoists can be difficult to maneuver if the person is heavy and/or if the floor surface is uneven. In this situation, an overhead tracking hoist or gantry system is indicated. The person is then gently turned in preparation for them to be lowered into the chair. The legs of the hoist are opened so they can go around the chair. Back-safe pushing technique is practiced to push the hoist and person to the chair where they are safely lowered into the chair. Correct positioning of the person in the chair can be assisted by one handler gently pushing on one of the person's legs or both legs, or pushing the front of the sling, or from behind the person, if space allows, pulling the sling. Countdown has finished and Vera wants an afternoon snooze before dinner time. The sling has been fitted under her with the leg loops crossed. With the 6 loops attached to the 6-point spreader bar, she is safely lifted, then pulled away from the chair using back-safe technique, pushed to the bed with again back-safe technique, and then safely lowered onto the bed. The sling is then detached from the spreader bar by both handlers, and the mobile hoist is removed away from the bed. The Prism Medical Comfort Recline Sling here has been fitted under Vera. The Comfort Recline Sling works like the traditional hammock sling when in the crossover position. The Comfort Recline Sling is designed for the amputee, but it is also suitable for people who have to remain in the sling for extended periods as the spacer material is fully breathable. Here, Gareth and Jason attach the loops that are closest to her shoulders, both selecting the yellow loops of the Comfort Recline Sling, attaching them to the nearest point to her on the 6-point spreader bar on the Mackworth Essentials 180 mobile hoist. The black leg loops are then attached to the furthest spreader bar points from her. As you can see, the middle spreader bar point has no sling strap attached, as the Comfort Recline Sling has no middle strap. In the final section of this DVD video, we will be covering hoisting from the floor.